First of all, thank you for accepting the interview with ACC, or ACIF, Associated Citizens of Imperial Valley.
Well, it's my pleasure, Tony. I think what you guys represent and what you're striving for is excellent. Very, very good. So it's my pleasure.
So let's first start talking about your history within the city of Calexico. If you'd like to tell us a little bit more.
You mean even without the city council?
Yes, tell us a little bit.
Okay, I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, and I come from, I'm proud, I mean, I've educated myself, so I have these ideas or mind frame, and I'm very class oriented, so I'm very proud to say I come from working class. I grew up with my mother, my Mexican mother. She worked many jobs, and I moved a lot. I know what instability is, and but the thing, and the way, the reason why I'm telling you this is because it carries in my heart, and it helps me reach out and help the people. I used to see my mother struggle. Not have enough money for all the bills or the food, and I know today that many families in Calexico have the same situation, and so I'm very people oriented, and I guess my white grandmother, Lutheran, she brought me up to say that the most important thing is to give, not to take. But when I first got here in '92, I worked special ed for 5 years. And then I moved into social science. I've taught just about all the classes in social science. I taught government, same time as Mr. Brian Wong, who's a wonderful individual. And then for the last 5 years, I've taught U.S. history, and I'll tell you, I really, really like it. And I've always taught, once they found out that I had an acting background and a theater arts bachelor's degree, they gave me the extra curriculum class drama, which I think is very, very important for kids because it gets them out of their seat, it allows them to express themselves. So that the arena that I got into, knowing more of the, what do you want to say, the movers and the doers in our city, is when I applied and I got on the Arts Commission. And then I even started, I was the founder of the Border Players, and we did about 6 plays. And then that tapered off in 2006, and then 2010, I was toying with the idea of running for city council. And I don't know, it just got to me. I saw Castro and I forget her name, Gloria. She was on the school board, and I saw them and I go, wow, look at that. They look like they're important and they're talking, and they were going to run for city council. And I said, you know what? I'm going to run. I think I got a good chance. And so that's sort of my history of since '92. And this is my home. I love LA, I love visiting it, but Calexico is my home. And my own mainly drive is to do everything possible to raise the quality of life for all citizens.
What's the current state of the city?
The current state of the city is in transition. There can be pain and fear and instability when there's growth. My background with so many changes in my life, I've gotten used to it, so I'm able to ride that out maybe a little more than some people. I don't react too much because I believe that stability will naturally come. Yes, there are comments about instability in our city, but you know, Councilwoman Maritza brings up that there's been 3 city managers in the last year, and that is true. I wished it had not progressed that way, but it was to strive to get the right person. I'm not gonna give in to the idea that we have to be stable or status quo and then yet we still have low quality or standards. We need to try to get the best fit, the best city manager in this city. And so if it means that you have to kind of keep, you know, toying and you know, looking around, and so be it. As long as you have in place people of rank and expertise still running the city, I don't worry about that. But right now, I think that the majority of the people are just carrying out their daily lives. To be honest with you, the majority of the people, it's us that have to go to them. They don't go to the city council meetings. Who goes to city council meetings are people that have self-interest, you know, in regards of what kind of votes are done. And I consider them, they're good people, but I consider them a faction of the population. The silent majority are hardworking men and women and their families, and they're relatively disconnected to the government. And that's one thing I don't like. When I look down on the agenda, I don't really see items that directly help people. Maybe in a long about way, but mostly on the agenda items is for the benefit of the operations of the city to move forward, and administration and the bureaucracy. I want to see more items, and that means that I'm going to go out into the streets, and I usually do. I'm going to go out and listen to the complaints, and I'm going to voice them in city council so that we put those issues for the people on the agenda. Now, one thing that I instituted or brought back was the town hall meetings. We haven't had one for a while, but they do work. They'll work as long as when you listen to the people, the city follows up. And so far we've been relatively successful with that. But we need to bridge and make a stronger connection between the operation of our city government, the representation of our city government, truly for the working people in this city. Not an elite group, not a faction, but the majority, which some people call the silent majority.
What do you think about the JPIA's considering of a letter to remove Calexico's coverage?
Yeah, you know, it's a fine line, and we need more training. As far as the JPIA, I take them very seriously. I have made a commitment to do everything possible to make them happy so that we get out of this program improvement. Maybe there's been a couple of times where I retracted and stirred up some problems that might have caused some concern with JPIA, but I certainly take them seriously, and I was elected to be on their board, and I'm happy. I've got some binders back there that as soon as this campaign is over, I like to study. But yes, we need to abide by the JPIA, and that's why there's always rumors or speculation and that we were going to fire Mr. Richard Warren. I vacillated on that issue. I like some of the things that he's done. I think he's progressive and open, but I can see that there's a sort of an authoritative streak. I tend to be more progressive. I'm more of a liberal, so that sort of goes against my ideals. And then I thought there was a process there, or a need to reach out to him, and there was disrespect. But maybe those things can be overcome. But I vacillated about firing him, but at the end, I thought hard, and I actually listened to those people in that audience who are very much pro Maritza and anti-Tabares and pro Richard Warren and pro new chief of police. And I listen to them, and I know they don't represent the majority, but I listen to them. And at this point in time, I think the best thing is to just stay calm until after the elections, and then we look at these situations and see what we can do. But remember, they're interim. That means they're temporary. That's how they've come about. And yes, we have the right to make them permanent, but why are we doing that if we selected them as interim? Well, some people say they're very happy with their approach. I'm not quite convinced yet, but unlike some city council people that did not give Chief Tabares the benefit of the doubt and immediately out of the gate started to undermine and criticize him, I am very willing to give this new chief a chance and to hear him out. So I'm looking forward to meeting him. I'm not avoiding him, it's just that been so busy with the campaign that I haven't had a chance to meet him.
Your hometown, Maywood, is the only other city.
My hometown, I love it. They're playing up on that.
The JPI.
I was only there until I was 2, so I have no responsibility or impact on what happened. Yes.
Well, it's stated that your hometown, Maywood, is the only city in the history of the JPA to lose its coverage.
Yeah.
And for many of the same reasons, Calexico may be the second. Has this knowledge affected the way you conduct business in the city of Calexico?
For me, and objectively, and I will make that statement without trying to be arrogant, probably other than John Moreno, I am the most professional councilman on this council. If you watch the tapes, you will not see me yelling at the council people. Maybe I've raised my voice as mayor a few times to try to calm down Mr. Kim, and I certainly will not attack anyone personally. It's not in my heart to do that. And psychologically, it's not smart, because when you attack someone's motives, you put them on the defensive, and now they're in a fighting mode. And that's not what the city council meeting is about. So watch the tapes, and I think everyone will decide that Councilman Hodge is the most calm, the most reasonable, and the most professional. And I'll tell you, I've learned some of that professionalism by extending myself out into other organizations, because I think as a representative of Calexico, we need to not be so provincial, but more cosmopolitan. We need to be at the table with certain organizations like the Imperial County Transit Commission. And when I'm there in those meetings, I see a difference. I see a difference of how professional these people are, and they've taught me. I've learned, and I try to bring it back to our council. But it saddens me when there is yelling, and it saddens me also when people in the public are extremely rude and disruptive. If I'm re-elected, I was told that cities don't put up with some of the kind of the obscenities and some of the slanderous remarks or the loudness that we do with some audience members. So if I'm re-elected, I'm going to try to pass an ordinance that there's one warning, and if that person continues to be loud and offensive, they're ejected out of the chambers. Because no other city puts up with that. Only we do.
There are some that say that regardless of the JPIA's mandate for the city council to not get involved with personnel matters, you and council members Kim and Castro continue to do so throughout the search of a new city manager. Can you address this, and if so, why?
Yeah, it's misleading. What I can't speak for Kim or Castro. All I know is I was very close contact with Jennifer Lyons, our city attorney, and like when the Badas was suspended, one could say, well, he's meddling, let them make that decision. But there is a law and a power and a right that gives the mayor or a city council person the right to go in, and whoever made that decision, question and evaluate their performance. Okay? That's different from putting yourself into the daily personal operations and meddling. So when I rushed over to Nick Servine, I was concerned about his mental state, his motivation, and we have a right to evaluate, because he was the acting city manager. We can't do that with other department people, but he was the acting city manager, and we have a right to question, and JPIA confirmed it, that I did no wrong as long as I was going in there on the basis of questioning and evaluating his performance, his mental state, and his decision making on Tabares. And he somewhat was very defensive and said, you have no right, this is an internal matter. And I said, I don't want to know about all the intricacies of the internal, I just want to ask you why you made that decision, because I have a right to question you. I and the other city council people are your superior, we're your boss. And so that is legal. That is not meddling in or micromanaging. And JPIA will stand up to that, what I'm saying. They will back me up.
Recently, Castro made comments in Pure Valley Press that he was not concerned about the JPIA pulling insurance from Calexico, and he stated that there are other insurances out there.
Yeah.
How much does it concern you that at least one of your colleagues may not completely grasp the scope of the situation?
Very much. Very much. I respect Castro, but he's wrong on his mind frame and attitude. I don't know where he gets the idea that the JPIA is nothing. That scares me. That's too much of a risk. And I certainly don't want to be responsible for doing damage to the city. So, and I believe also that Councilman Kim has the same attitude. It is Councilman Moreno and Councilman Maritza and myself that take JPIA very seriously, and I will continue. I respect who they are. I respect what they demand, and I will do my best to get this city through and get out of that program improvement.
Are you gonna push forward to keep the new city manager, or are you gonna try to continue the search for another one?
Well, remember at the very beginning there was no controversy, that we all agreed that Mr. Warren would stay with us for 6 months until December. Then he did some very good things and people were happy. And then there was talk about, well, why don't we make him or extend his contract or make him permanent? I have vacillated. I like some of the things he's done. I think what he did with the budget was an excellent product. But there are other things that I have concerns about. So at this time, if people remember just recently, once I found out that we could address whether we want to extend his contract or not after the election, then I voted with John and Maritza to just wait. There are people that I sometimes feel are get very emotional and very reactionary, and they want things done right away. I I don't like to be in that position. I don't like to be pushed about, oh, you got to get them fired right now. I like to deliberate, give people chances and to see. So at this time, I don't know what I'm going to do. I may not be reelected. So, but I do support Councilwoman Hurtado and Council Mayor Moreno that let's just wait until after the election and we'll take the issue up.
You're up for re-election next week?
Yes.
If you're not re-elected, how do you feel about your performance as a council member?
Oh, I think I've done overall an excellent job, even through some turbulent times. My mayorship was rocky because it was all focused on the division in the police department or towards the police department. I'd like to expand on that. I support any police department for any city. We need high quality, high standard police department. There are public safety, and if I care so much about the people, I want the best police department. And part of having the best police department is having enough police officers so that they can respond in a proper time. Sometimes a matter of seconds or minutes, if they're not there because they're understaffed, lives are lost. So I've always been concerned about that we were not adequately staffed. I will not be reconvinced that we were not. I mean that we were. We were not adequately staffed. They did not receive the 2 officers that were already allocated in the budget. That concerned me. That it concerned me of the ugliness and the immediate attacks on the bodice, and even some racial slurs on Facebook by certain what do you call it? Facebook pages. You know, I thought that was all wrong and unjust. But let me tell you, there's been a long investigation and it's been very costly. It's been extremely secretive, and it probably will be very appropriate that findings come out right during election. I mean, if you want to do damage to candidates, that's what you want to do, is bring it out right before the election. So we'll see what happens. He was fired, and I just want to say though, as much as I support the police department, if there is any wrongdoing illegally among any of those officers, I'll be the first to stand up and say that they deserve the punishment or the consequences, because nobody is above the law. I'm not above the law. Council people, nobody, mayor or police chief. And so I hold to that principle. But at this time, there is no hard evidence. There is no communication as to what has happened. So I withhold my judgment whether there's been any wrongdoing.
Is there anything that you would do differently if given the chance?
As a city councilman?
Yes.
I don't think so. I try to be very reasonable in my thought processes and decision making. I try to analyze and look on both sides of the issues, and my record will show that there are times that as a block, Maritza, John and I are together. I know John and I are very pro-business. We don't have to have secret meetings or break the Brown Act. We think alike, you know. And then some areas about criticism about the inner workings of the city, I tend to coincide with Kim and Castro. So as a swing voter, you'll see my record is that I think independently and I vote on the issue. At this point in time, even on my votes, I don't regret any of my votes. Not at all. I regret that the things that have happened, like the sexual harassment claims against us three, and which puts me in a difficult position as a teacher. And I don't think it has, but could have harmed my reputation as a teacher. The ousting of Mayor Castro, just because he wanted to deliver a city address that was somewhat critical of the city. There were members that said, no, don't bring those things up, it's got to be all positive. And then probably wanting to get rid of him because simply he was kind of slow in his delivery because he struggles with English. But I don't criticize that. I told him I'd be there to help him. But no, I don't think there's anything that I would do differently, because I always, the main principle or goal for me is whatever I'm looking at, how does this benefit the greater good of the people? And if I'm convinced that it will in some way, short term or long term, then I'll vote for it.
If you are not re-elected, what advice would you give to your successor?
Follow your heart, follow your principles, but also learn to listen and compromise when it's needed. There is a misconception. There doesn't have to be 5 councilmen that agree with each other all the time. That doesn't have to be a goal. Under a democracy, it doesn't work that way. Under a democracy, it is the majority that is respected and the minority is respected. So in the workings of legislature and democracy, you seldom have a unification of a vote. So really, the 3-2 votes are really is not a bad thing in the sense of jumping to the conclusion that we're divided. You have a new power structure. Now, I didn't hear these criticisms. I did not hear these criticisms when Maritza, Romero, and John Moreno were the bloc, and I was the minority with Castro, and we hardly ever got our votes passed. I didn't go off and cry or retaliate, because under a democracy, it's the majority that you need to respect and allow to accept their rulings. And in due time, sometimes it will flip and that minority will become the majority. And that's what's happened. When you got Kim in, the power arrangement shifted. This is politics, this is government, it's not illegal. And now you had a power block where you had 3 minds that worked more ideologically together because of their backgrounds or philosophies, and you don't need to talk to each other. You're just aligned. And it just seemed that when that shifted, the people that were once the majority and they became the minority got very defensive and offensive and retaliatory. And democracy, that's an ugly aspect, and there's no place for that kind of thing in a democracy. And in a democracy, again, the majority rules. There's nothing wrong with 3 against 2. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter of if you don't like those 3 that vote a particular way.
If you are re-elected, how will you use your previous experience to be better next time?
I have achieved quite a bit on my own in initiating. And of course, some of the things have had to come to the council, and I'm appreciative of the council and of collaborating. So I don't want to give the idea that I'm a loner or a rogue. It's just that my mind is constantly moving. I'm constantly observing. And when I see problems, I want collectively people to come together, the proper stakeholders, and facilitate and problem solve. And so I've done that. In other words, I'm very proactive. Objectively, I'm serious. Objectively, what individual accomplishments or policies have been initiated by the others that have come to fruition? Maybe a few. They don't compare to me. I instituted or brought back the town hall meetings. I instituted something called the Sports Summit. I have brought meetings together to seriously work on downtown and revitalizing it. I was the councilman that first approached Wessel, Senator Wessel, to give us funding. I'm the one that continued to give pressure. I'm not saying it's just only me that made these things happen, but I know I influenced the city to get Cole Road fixed faster. Faster, it had been so long. There's another one, but it escapes me. So I've made many accomplishments, and I'm connected to organizations where I advocate on behalf of Calexico, and I want to continue. I'm the one that got over the rift between our previous city manager and developer Kevin Smith, so that they could move forward in investment. I feel good about that accomplishment because I was just told yesterday that 2 of the lots have gone through escrow, and there will be, it's kind of weird, I had to have it explained, a greenhouse there, and then they're going to bring about 50 jobs. And there are 2 other lots that are going through escrow, and they're going to bring jobs. And I am partly responsible for that. And I've worked close with Grand Plaza in bringing jobs. So I want the chance to allow myself to continue working hard on the projects and the visions that I see, and hopefully that are collaborated or agreed upon with the others. We need a retreat. As a city council, we need to come up with 3 or 4 common goals and stick to it and work together on it. But I don't sit around. There's some that you might say work their job, study their agenda, go to the city council and vote, and then go back to their job. I don't do that. In between that, I see problems, I make meetings, I try to get people together to solve them. I think that people will know that that's a big difference between me and some of the other council members. And I'm proud of that. It's just part of me because I'm a workaholic. So that's good because I have no self-interest. I have no business to protect or promote. So I was taught by my grandmother that the more you give, the more you receive. And so all I want to do is serve, and I want to be reelected so I can continue to serve. And let me just lastly say, this campaign has opened my eyes. I want to be known later as someone that's going to work on a lot of issues, but I want to be known as the councilman for senior citizens first. They are neglected. some of the places they're living, they are neglected. And the city needs to step in and try to help them. I don't care if it's private development or property. We have an obligation towards senior citizens. So I want to do a food bank with the neighborhood house, and I've just proposed a senior citizens commission. So I'm gonna, if I'm reelected, I'm gonna be down in the ground with senior citizens, and I'm gonna bring back their concerns, and I'm gonna expect this council to respond.
In conclusion, your message to the city, what is it?
Have faith, have confidence in ourselves. We're growing pains. You have someone like me that tries to be very professional, very progressive in my ideas to move ahead. Let's believe in ourselves. And we are a family, and families squabble. I don't get too upset about that. I'm not as negative as some of the people are about our image. I think we have a lot of good qualities as Calexico, and we have the potential to be the best city in the Imperial Valley. And no disrespect to the others, but if I'm reelected, I will push hard to make that happen.
So we asked our viewers from Associated Citizens of the Imperial Valley to ask you questions because they know that we're interviewing you right now.
Yeah.
One of them says, does Mr. Hodge really understand what the chain of command is? If he does, and a sergeant is not doing his supervisory job, can a lieutenant or chief give orders or correct an officer or PD staff member?
Absolutely. This is what I had faith in Tabatas. This is what I liked what he had said at first, that he was going to create the proper chain of command. No disrespect, but the previous chief before Tabatas, that was a major concern and criticism among many of the officers, that there were too many chiefs and not enough Indians. The lieutenants, as far as I understand the chain of command, have the right to correct the sergeants, but the chain of command, I might be wrong, they do not have a right to overstep the sergeants and go directly to the guy on the bottom, the officers, and make the correction. They have violated the chain of command. And that was one thing that was happening with our previous city manager. He said, give the lieutenants more flexibility and put them in different roles. But that gets very confusing, and it demoralizes the police department because they're trained to be paramilitary. And so when you have lieutenants confronting a patrol officer where it should be a sergeant, that becomes demoralizing and confusing. So yes, I understand the chain of command, and it needs to be respected. And I hope this new chief strengthens it and carries it out.
The second question says, will you stay out of the management of the CPD long enough to show you what a competent manager is like Chief Bostic can do? Will you promise not to interfere with the city manager's job of negotiating MOUs with the CPOA and focus on representing the interests of your citizens?
Well, they're interconnected, believe it or not. What happens with that, the police department has a huge impact on the citizens. And as far as what I understand as a previous vice president of the union, an MOU is when it's intact, it can only be changed with agreement with both parties. No, I'm not going to step in and try. I don't have any say-so about that. But I have an opinion about it. If the administration is trying to play, undermine the MOUs or try to disempower a union, I don't like that. Let's get this straight, because I'm tired of hearing this. Unions are not special interest groups. That's BS. Unions are people, the working people of the United States. That comes from my history. And thank God for unions, which we don't have a lot of unions. That's why working people are exploited. Without a union, a working man has no protection, no strength. The unions is a collective group of working people that try to make demands and conditions in their working environment with the capitalist or the administrators. And, you know, they try to have an equal level of power at that moment. Because historically, working people have been, there's no democracy in business. It's a hierarchy. You got a boss breathing down your back, telling you what to do. The working man needs protection, whether it's a police union or not. Sometimes this police union is very aggressive. It can be unsettling. But thank God for unions that stand up for ourselves. I'm very proud of our teachers union. We're noted to be one of the strongest unions. But no, I will not meddle in, that will be between the union and the administration. But if that police union feels that there are violations of you know, not of fair practice, they're going to do what they feel is right, and that they're going to slap a lawsuit on us. So as a councilman, it's my responsibility to make sure that these lawsuits don't happen, because that money's going to come out of the pocket of the citizens. But no, I'm not going to get in between that. That's going to happen on their own time.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge.
Oh, thank you very much, Tony. I enjoyed this.
For more videos like this one or one from your city, follow facebook.com/ACOIV.